Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another live this morning. Hope you're having a great start to your day. And we'll wait for a few folks to come on as usual and say hello. And Ruby, good morning. How are you? And Rosa, good morning. Nice to have you on. Lenora, good morning. And if this is your first time, anybody on, come on and say hello. Doris, good morning. And Wendy from Markham, good morning. And Jenny, good morning. Familiar faces are familiar names. And Nellie, how are you? Margaret, we appreciate you coming on. And you guys are fabulous. Fran from Orangeville. Len and Judy from Edmonton, Alberta. Etta, good morning. Susan, Florida. Good morning, Susan. And we'll wait a few. Georgie, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Lee's. And a couple of more here, guys. I don't know. My scroll, the last little bit, has been slow as molasses. Sherry. Oh, I want to sing, Sherry. I want to sing. Annette. And, okay, a couple of more. Bruno, good morning. Quebec, right, Bruno? Yeah. Kevin is in New Brunswick visiting. From Oshawa, good morning. Christine, how are you? Nice to have you on. Okay. Connie. And Kevin says he's in his car listening. Well, thank you, Kevin. Much appreciated. And Mark Anthony, good morning. That's a famous name, isn't it? Mary, Jackie. Okay, a couple of more, guys. I hope you're getting your notices, and we appreciate it, okay? We appreciate it. Nicole and Jackie from Belle-Île. Sunny Belle-Île this morning. Well, we're overcast here in Sudbury. And good morning. And here we go. Okay. Laurie, how are you? Nice to have you on. Milika. Okay. One more. Okay, who's next on the hit parade here? One more. And Brahim from Portland, Oregon. Good morning, Brahim. I'm glad you came up. Karen. Okay, and Sandra. A few more, I lied. Guys, here we go. Now, the other day, we did a whole session on depression, right? But I got to bring this to you because this is a huge, huge headline. It is a huge headline in depression. Now, let me read you the headline and we'll talk about this for a few minutes at least. The headline is this: a decisive blow to serotonin hypothesis. Now, I'm going to break that down for you. This was in Psychology Today, and here's the headline: a decisive blow to serotonin hypothesis. A multi-billion-dollar error. This is the headlines, guys. Marketing a myth. Wow. Comprehensive study on depression says there's been a marketing of a hypothesis that was 100% wrong according to studies. Now, I want to give you a little bit of history. In 1965, okay, in 1965, Dr., see if I pronounce this right, Joseph Schlitzkraut started the theory of chemical imbalance for depression. He started the theory on you got a chemical imbalance, that's why you're depressed. And thus, shortly thereafter, the pharmaceutical industry came out with SSRIs, serotonin inhibitors, like Prozac and like Zoloft, multi-billion dollars. Now, I said this the other day. What did I say the other day? It really has been, when it comes to depression, the treatment of it has been a colossal failure. Now, look, somebody asked me the other day after the program, Doc, I want to get off my SSRIs. I've been on them for a long time, whatever. Look, I'm not your personal doctor, so I can't tell anyone to do that. All I'm bringing here is education. You read a story in Psychology Today like this, and this was done on an exhaustive study on all the studies looking at, is depression really a chemical imbalance? Because SSRIs were made to fix a chemical imbalance. If they did, why didn't it fix depression? That was the question asked. Now, the other day, we talked about this, and I want to go back in just a little bit because I talked to you about my personal experience with depression. Let's do a little bit of a review here. What I was saying, in my clinical experience, that depression, it's the chicken or the egg. I never said that it wasn't, an imbalance, but it was more complex than that. I wasn't so worried about imbalance of serotonin, the feel-good hormone, the mood changer. I was never so big on that. Like for me, I used to look at depression completely different. And what I did is I was big on deficiencies. That the brain never acted alone, first of all. That the brain was very, very responsive to what your gut was doing. Now, I'm talking 50 years ago, talking about the connection between your gut and your brain. Because one thing we knew, even way back then, is you had more feel-good hormones in your gut than you had in your brain. Like when Hippocrates, two things. Hippocrates, when you do the Hippocratic Oath, Hippocrates, you know what the Hippocratic Oath is? First of all, do no harm. I want to spend a little bit of time on that. First of all, when you put your hand up and repeat the Hippocratic Oath, I did that. You know what the first part of it is? Don't do any harm. Don't do any harm. And I can tell you, when it comes to depression, And these studies are bearing it out. SSRIs have done a lot of harm. A lot of harm. It's almost like they were looking for love in all the wrong places. Because it wasn't at the root of depression. One guy said it. He started a theory. It's almost like the cholesterol hoax, which is 100% hoax. The cholesterol hoax was started by one guy. You guys should know this. If I gave you a rapid test, who was the guy? What was his name? Ancel Keys. He started a hoax. Look, he probably meant well. It was a theory that he had. After President Eisenhower had a heart attack in 1955, he got a lot of ink because he said, well, I know what caused President Eisenhower's heart attack. It was cholesterol. That fatty-looking substance. Okay? You see, now, look, folks, if you're on a podcast, you won't see this, but do it in your mind's eye. See that yellow glob behind me here? Okay? On my right-hand shoulder, over my right, you see that's 5 pounds of fat. Okay? I have a 1 pounder here somewhere in my office. Where is it? Anyway, don't matter. See that 5 pounds behind me? Well, you see, in Ancel Keys' mind, that 5 pounds of fat looks like cholesterol. Cholesterol is a yellowish, looks like that. So he said, that's what's clogging up your arteries. Was he right? He was 100% wrong. It wasn't cholesterol. Cholesterol wasn't the boogeyman. Cholesterol wasn't the bad guy. But that theory, as you know, got well established, and the pharmaceutical industry jumped all over it. The food industry jumped all over it. Two of the biggest, most powerful groups in the world. Pharmaceutical, food. And the rest is history, my friend. Even today, 90-something% of the population, more than that, 95%, maybe more than that even, still believe cholesterol is the bad guy when it comes to heart disease. Now, when it comes to depression, one guy, I can't even pronounce his name. Okay. He had a theory. I know why you're depressed. You have a chemical imbalance. Here we are. I mean, geez, 60 years later. That wasn't true. It wasn't true. But there only seems to be one treatment for depression, and that is SSRIs. The problem is, it didn't really work. And, watch a movie. Think of everyday life. People that have emotional, depressive, and they'll say, I think they got off their meds. I think they got off their meds. See, that's part of our world's psyche. That's what happened with cholesterol. It just, if you repeat a lie, and people buy it, the general population, it must be true. right? You don't want to get me going on climate change. Because, anyway, don't get me going. I won't talk about it. No, but seriously, just say it. Say it, say it, say it, say it. And guess what happens? And we've had over 50 years of chemical imbalance theory in depression. And now, good luck trying to debunk that. Even though, when they looked at all the research that's ever been done on chemical imbalance being at the root of depression, they're saying, it don't add up. It's not true. We can't substantiate the research. The treatment has been a colossal failure, and I'm quoting them. I'm quoting them. And what I said the other day, my experience with clinical depression was I looked at history, number one, and deficiencies, number two. History, meaning two things that stood out. One, the microbiome changed. And usually because of antibiotics, and actually there's a story out on antibiotics that came out yesterday or the day before. I got to tell you about it, but I'm not promising I'm going to get to it today. Okay? It's another fascinating story. How the psyche of doctors, you can't change their mind. It's hard to introduce something new to them. Now, this. The gut. You have to start when you look at the brain. You better look at the gut. And I talked to you the other day about the blood, a gut barrier, the gut-blood barrier, having the connection to the blood-brain barrier. When toxins come across, when they get into your bloodstream, they travel to the brain two ways, through the blood and through the cranial nerve, the 10th cranial nerve. There's a huge connection between the gut and the brain. Hippocrates said it 2,000 years ago when he said, all disease starts in the gut. Depression is not a chemical imbalance. It's not. It's not the cause. The toxic brain. The toxic brain. And I'm doubling down on this. Antibiotics, the greatest discovery of the 20th century, has become the curse of the 21st. Because it wipes out your bacteria. And if you look at things short term, you got a bug, you got a bacteria. Unfortunately, antibiotics are given out even for viruses. They should never be given out for that. Anyway, we'll get into that at another time. Now, take an antibiotic. You're a child. It wipes out your protection between your blood and your gut, and then your blood-brain barrier. Toxins enter into the bloodstream. They get into your brain. They create an inflammatory response. And if you're the canary in the coal mine, that can start out on the path of depression. It messes up hormones. Crazy, isn't it? Bad food. Bad food. Sugar. Unhealthy oils. Bad oil. Bad oil creates inflammation. Sugar feeds yeast. And you start a process. And for some people, that can be at the root of their depression, my friend. Bad food, bad medication. And I know antibiotics can save your life. And that's when they should be used. Absolutely. I got no problem with that. But for heaven's sakes, let's regenerate our microbiome. Get rid of sugar. Get rid of those crappy carbs. Huge, huge effect on the brain. Huge effect. Bad oil. Almost invariably, folks have low vitamin D. Depression, low vitamin D. Almost invariably. And the other thing that I saw, low omega-3, the good oil. Omega-6, too much. Omega-3, DHA, EPA, animal fat with good oil. The Inuit don't get depression. Well, the one thing they don't get is heart disease. And they get their vitamin D from food, you see. They don't see the sun. Okay? They're not sunbathing. But they do get vitamin D. They get omega-3, high levels. They keep their inflammation down. What's the other one I talk to you about all the time? What was low in people? Low B12. Folks, out of all your B vitamins, B12 is the brain one. B12 is neurological. B12 is found in the animal kingdom in red meat, not even found in chicken. And we talked about that the other day. We talked about that. And my opinion, okay, just to come back to that leaky gut for a minute, the gut and the brain, huge, huge implications when you have an overgrowth of yeast. Now, neurologically, we know what happens. MS, Parkinson's, because even to get heavy metals across the brain, it's transported by yeast, fungus. So when you eat sugar, you're feeding the bears. And yeast is a huge, huge mycotoxin. You can't see it. It creates a terrible inflammatory response in the body, and the brain pays the price for it. And this is why my approach to depression was clean up the diet. And had to start with that. Fix the gut. Okay, so clean up the diet. Fix the gut. Fix that microbiome. If you fix your gut, you're fixing your blood-brain barrier too. You get 2 for the price of 1. Guys, you have to admit something. I've never changed my tune. They won't let me sing, but I've never changed my tune. I've always talked to you about probiotics, good bacteria. You need to replace that. And we had a paradigm shift 15 years ago, maybe at the Martin Clinic, Tony Jr. and I. We went from, you need probiotics, 2 or 3 times a year need to take probiotics to because of all the new things that were coming out, we said, no, you need probiotics every day. It's a foundational supplement. So for me, my treatment, and as I was saying the other day, the problem with treatment, okay, is whether they're going to conform, whether they're going to implement the changes. Now, here's the problem, of course, you can understand this. If a person is depressed, they don't feel like doing anything. That's why medication, excuse me, it's easy for them. Just take my meds. Take my meds. They can do it. People around them, take your meds. But look, again, guys. If I had a plan, it was excellent. I've seen people over the years, unreal the changes. And I mean it. But they had to do it. And I used to try and get them, seriously, to, in a short period of time, to understand why I was recommending what I was recommending. And, you know, some of it they got because I could show them the results of their testing. Well, you know what? The cortisol was high. They had leaky gut, leaky brain. They had low levels of B12. They had low levels of vitamin D. They had low levels of omega-3. I said, well, you got to fix that. Change your diet, fix your gut, and get your deficiencies, B12, vitamin D, omega-3. Fix that. And I talk to you about even minerals like an electrolyte like magnesium. Oftentimes they were low in that. Guys, I'm telling you, the results were astounding. Were astounding. And for people who have been in my field, when they look at deficiencies and they fix those, change the diet. See, I'm a big guy on changing fuel. Change your fuel, change your oil. Change your fuel, change your oil. Do you think, guys, that, you know, because every day I get asked, Dr. Martin, why are you so fixated on eggs, meat, and cheese? You know why? Because eggs are a super multivitamin and mineral. And meat especially red, is a super nutrient. From your brain to your toes. Cheese. The good dairy. Fat. You know why dairy's good? Fat. That's why you don't drink milk today. Don't drink milk. You don't need to. Don't drink fat-free. Can't stand it. That's not nature. Fat and protein. That's dairy. Fat and your fat-soluble vitamins. Vitamin A. Vitamin D. Vitamin K2. Addict. Guys, you need that. These are super multi-vitamins, protein, fat. When you eat protein and you eat fat together, okay, in nature, that's the way God's given it to us. Protein, fat, put them together. What do you have? Eggs, meat, cheese. Don't get rid of dairy. Who told you that? Oh, Dr. Martin, dairy, me. I hear it every day, dairy bad. Dairy's not bad. Dairy's not bad. The grocery store milk is bad. Because it's not milk. Didn't come out of the cow like that. But guys, I said, this is how your brain operates. You need to change fuel and you need to change oil. Why do you think we see so much depression today? And I know, look, you look at what especially young people have gone through and seniors have gone through, and we need each other. I've talked to you enough about lockdowns and stuff like that over a period of time, the unintended consequences of all that. Look, at our young people have gone through misery. They've lost years on their lives. And no one was talking about their immune system. But let me tell you this, when it comes to depression, you fix food, you fix the gut, and you supplement those deficiencies. And my friend, I'll tell you something. I would put that protocol up against any other protocol. Now, like I said, the problem is our society, it's going to be a hard time for them to change their mind. It's going to be a hard thing to get psychiatrists. Because I was reading something, and Dr. McEwen, okay, I often reference her because she teaches psychology at the University of Tennessee. Now listen, I think she would confirm this statistic, like psychology students are taught that when you got depression, mental health issues, there's a chemical imbalance. That's what they're taught. And I love Dr. McEwen because she thinks outside the box, like me. Okay? And my protocol was based on that. Based on history. And I talked to you the other day about trauma. Even in childhood or later on. Antibiotics. trauma, family dynamics. Sure, there's, because like I said, I was a history guy. I wanted your personal history. Tell me about your history. Did you ever go through a period of enormous amount of stress? Yep. When I used to ask that question. There's almost a time that was part of the equation. Gut, food, change their diet, change the oil, and supplementation for deficiencies. Look for deficiencies and get those fixed. Guys, I'm telling you, I love to be able to and there are people looking at this stuff for sure, but will it ever become mainstream? I'm not that confident. It's hard to, when you've got the world thinking this is a chemical imbalance, it's not going to be easy to change. Won't be easy. But again, I'm into education. If doctors will listen to me, I'll try and show them what I know. But generally, I'm aiming at you. You and your family and your friends. I had a radio show for many years. I tried to influence people on it. Just educate them. To look at the world maybe a little differently, especially the world of nutrition. There was so much nonsense and lies out there. I spent my life trying to change people. And now on this venue, through the podcast and the Facebook lives, this is what I do. And I enjoy it thoroughly. And I thank you for the feedback, guys. I mean that. The feedback has been very, very positive. There's the naysayers, and that's all right. I mean it. When we have an audience like we have, something like 60,000 people a week tuning in. Hey, happy about that. Okay, guys. So that was sort of part 2 of depression. Isn't that interesting? And, reading that headline, like it just about shocked me when I looked at this, and this was crazy. Let me read it to you again, just as a headline, a decisive blow to serotonin hypothesis. It debunks the chemical imbalance theory. Wow. Part of the article, a multi-billion-dollar error, a marketing myth. All of that in Psychology Today. Wow. Incredible. Okay, guess what tomorrow is? Question and Answer Friday. Should be fun. I can't say that I've ever had a Question and Answer Friday that wasn't fun. Okay? So send in your questions. Not too late. Not too late. Did you get our email today on free radical damage? The skin. How free radicals damage the skin. Okay. Okay, guys. We love you dearly, and we'll talk to you soon.